Hello, this is Dawn here, and I'm here to share a little bit with you about the 7 pillars for the radical redefinition of relationship. These are the core sacred partnership teachings that came out of my own questioning on this path to which I felt called since I was a child, which is I came to understand as the path of sacred partnership, which is such an interesting one that one can actually be on this journey, and it's really a journey inward to it's a point of connection to connect to your whole self and your soul self through this particular pathway. And what I have discovered here in the last 2 or 3 years in particular is that these 7 pillars, which Jesus showed me as a result of these questions that I was asking because I was just seeking to understand what didn't make any sense. And it has been, for me, I've seen in the last year how I've actually been on this 33-year kind of cycle. And that is coming to a culmination, I won't say conclusion, because I mean, clearly it goes on from here, but a marking point this August of 2020. So I wrote Sacred Partnership, I believe in late 16, early 17. And then I shared it, I think, beginning of 2019, or perhaps it may have been June 2018. But in any case, so I have a journey and the book, which is currently available free. And you can find the links below any of the videos to that. And so I wrote it, I had these conversations with Jesus, and I would take notes. He would have me, kind of write down things and then shared the teachings. And my own personal journey has shifted quite a bit in the last couple of years. And what I have just deeply come to understand here in these last couple of months is that these 7 pillars are not only, so in the teachings, what Jesus showed me were that these 7 pillars were, you passed through them, and it was an initiation into a deeper, the radical redefinition of relationship, a new way of being in relationship. But what has it's kind of blown everything wide open is here in the last year, and in particular in the first early months of 2020, he showed me how that these 7 pillars were also, just more generally, also true for other paths similar to the path of sacred partnership. And many of us on this path have been in relationships where there has been an embodiment of that sacred partnership. I myself have not been, at least not in a committed partnership. I was married, and I think there were elements of that present. And, I deeply treasure my former husband, who was married twice too, and love him very deeply. And yet there's been this, kind of question mark for me. And so this has really, for me, been a liberation to understand that these 7 pillars, and that I have come to personally understand in these teachings from Jesus, and I want to share with you, are more than just about a relationship and or a way of being through partnership. And that is something I still feel very called to, and yet it's really beautiful. And so in the introduction to Sacred Partnership, I talk about the 7 pillars, and what I want to do is break them into 7 videos and just go a little deeper and talk more about this broader application and what that looks like, and just, sort of explore it with you. So I wanted to give a little bit of an introduction about the 7 pillars. So they are: 1, honoring the third thing; 2, walking in the way of wholeness; 3, understanding radiant expansion; 4, mirroring and accelerated soul growth; 5, embodying sacred witness through soulful creativity; 6 is embodying sacred service through soulful contribution; and 7 is embodying sacred restoration through soulful community. So the most amazing thing about the way that this was shown to me, and I've yet to find a way to capture it visually, but is that this is a living temple that is actually always in flux. So it's not fixed. It's not like 4 columns and then the capstone, which is what I initially thought when Jesus described it as a temple. And it is that, but it is always adjusting, expanding. Sometimes one is calling to us more, and that is the path of initiation at that point. So it's always in flux. They are also, each one of the pillars is itself a portal. And there is also a reconfiguration always happening between the 7 pillars. So they're dynamic pathways that can be accessed via multiple points of entry. So it's not just that you go through the 4 columns and you're standing in the temple. It's more like, and I think of it, when I think of it now, I think of it as a star system in the sky, and how, one might be twinkling a little brighter at times, and you can connect and be gazing at that star. So you're fixed on that particular pathway in this case, or that particular pillar of sacred partnership, which is really about life and living in full expression. So again, it's a much broader application than I initially understood. And so you might be connecting, say to one of those pillars, and as you're doing that, you're connecting more fully to all of them as one framework or system. And so these portals, or these pillars, are about they're energetic pathways, and they are about us aligning more and more fully to our whole self, our soul self, and to spirit, and to God, the universal flow of energy. And each of them will lead us into greater meaning, momentum, and forward momentum, both within the context of relationship and partnerships, but also just in life. So that is a kind of a brief overview of this living temple, which is composed of the 7 pillars. Now, the other important thing to understand, and this I go deeper into this in the journey, is that there are 2 sets of the pillars within the 7. The first 4 are, if you think of that 4 columns that create the square or rectangle of the temple space, those 4 columns form the foundation. And the foundation, again, is a living, dynamic foundation that is also sustainable. And the pillars provide that framework for a whole new way of being in our lives. And it's about expansion. It's about radiant expansion. And they lead us, in terms of sacred partnership, into deeper and deeper places where we can connect with one another. But remember, that always happens first within you, a deeper connection with who you are. And so this is about sacred union within you. And it does pertain to the divine feminine, divine masculine aspects within yourself, within your soul self, that, that's imprinted, that it's there, it's the template that we all come, and it's just that through various experiences, through our soul's journey, there have been energetic patterns that have been disrupted. And so entering into this temple, into these first 4 columns that are, again, are portals for transformation, this is entering into the space where we ourselves are transformed and can come into a deeper reconciliation and that sacred union within. And then everything is expanded in our life, not only our partnerships, but also our relationship to the earth, our relationship to other groups, to society itself, and to our collective life journey. So the 4 pillars that form that foundation are a trinitarian model, a commitment to walking in the way of wholeness, an understanding of radiant expansion, and then a mastery of mirroring as a tool for accelerated soul growth and ultimately the liberation of humanity and our conscious evolution together. So these four columns, pillars, portals work together to create that dynamic and sustainable framework. And our only job literally is to enter into that, to be immersed in this way of being. Isn't that beautiful? So we don't have to, there is an element of mastery that we are invited into, and there is a level of initiation, but it's not as if we have to, check, and then we can go on to the next. It's not that sort of a framework. It's actually an invitation to the dance of our lives by standing in the center, by knowing there is a dynamic and sustainable foundation for our growth from here. And in this sacred space of the living temple, we are restored and refueled, and we are held in a spacious grace, an infinite grace. And we are able then to see ourselves and see one another in a different light. So there are the three capstone pillars. So those are the four that create that foundation. And then there are the three capstone pillars. And these three pillars lead us to a heightened and deepened and broadened experience of sacred union, and into a life far, far more abundant than we perhaps could ever have imagined. And these are, again, energetic pathways. And I do initially, when I drew this out, I saw the three pathways coming to the pinnacle, and this is where there was an opening for spirit flowing down, and also a flowing up of our own sacred essential gifts that we come bearing and sharing those with the world. And so these three capstone pillars are definitely about a movement out into the world, but it's also equally a movement deeper into our own understanding or our own experience of who we are and who we have come to be. And so these three capstone pillars are sacred witness through soulful creativity, sacred service through soulful contribution, and sacred restoration through soulful community. The convergence of these three energetic pillars, as we begin to really allow ourselves to be in a flow with these three pathways, it creates a narrow gate through which we can enter into and realize, as the song says, that heaven is a place on earth, and that it actually begins in our hearts. And the more that we, for example, tap into sacred witness, sacred service, sacred restoration through creativity, contribution, and community, through those three connection points, the more and more the ethereal is made manifest into form. And everything also is revealed. It is the revelation of a mystery, and all is made new. And it's like the creation comes alive. I've experienced this myself, just in small ways. For me, primarily through creativity, because that's I'm the most comfortable with that particular pathway. I think for me, community is the most difficult, just because I've had a lot of emotional experiences through the years with regard to that. And so I'm still working on, kind of clearing the way for me to more fully connect with that. And then the other one being contribution, and that's sort of the middle one for me. And so when you really begin to really tap into one of these, you understand that we live in a circle of recreation, and that all things are always in the process of that creation. It's a story of recreation. This is our story. It is the story of life. And those of us called to the path of sacred partnership, or anyone called to the awakening process to become more, to flourishing humanity and flourishing in your own life, any one of us will begin to experience being a part of the whole creation, and giving birth to that creation as we open our hearts to allow more and more to receive and give. And it's this eternal cycle of giving and receiving. So those are the 3 capstone pillars. The first 4 pillars that I discussed are the cornerstone teachings, and they create this sacred vessel for transformation. So again, those were honoring the third thing, walking in the way of wholeness, understanding radiant expansion, and mirroring an accelerated soul growth. And then these 3 capstone pillars are a pyramid portal for this recreation, the recreation of our own lives, of the recreation and transformation of our relationships, and I would say all relationships. And then, as I have been shown, in the last year or so, it's the recreation of all that is across timelines, across realities. It is a reunion, that sacred union that is expanded infinitely outward, so that it expands to, the community level, the global level, the galactic level, whatever, the cosmic level. I don't know the terms that are, the correct ones, but it literally ripples out so that we begin to feel one with not just all that is in our own world, and not just even all that is within this beautiful planet that is our home, Gaia, this planet Earth, the new Earth that we are stepping into. Not only that, not only our cosmic brothers and sisters, but through every direction of space and time. These capstone pillars that are a pyramid, they are a portal for that recreation, that upliftment that is literally just will blow your heart and mind wide open, because it is an expansion so radiant and it is the return of the golden sun and the return of our sun, the Earth's sun, S-U-N and S-O-N. So this eternal recreation process is really expanded as we are able to step into that center place of sacred union in those first 4 portals and/or pillars. And as we're standing there, and then we're lifted up, this is the process of ascension, and we begin to connect to these energetic pathways that move more into an expression of who we are. An expression of our authentic selves, our whole selves, and our soul selves. As we do that, we're in that pyramid of recreation, and this mutual choice that we make to serve humanity as we bear sacred witness, as we engage in sacred service, and as we participate in sacred restoration. This is opening the way for God's recreation, life's recreation, the universal recreation within us. And choose whichever resonates more with you. To me it's one and the same. And this is how as more and more of us come into this sacred union within us and begin to live from it and to express more fully who we are, this is how our world changes and is lifted up. So that's a bit of an introduction to the 7 pillars and these pathways to greater meaning and purpose that are portals of transformation. There are so many ways to look at this, and I hope that as you join me for these videos that I'll do, that you will connect in your unique way to each of these 7 pillars, and really begin to think of them as touchstones for literally radiant expansion from within in all ways, and always to allow yourself to be in the flow of life. And this again is not a fixed system of teachings. It is a dynamic and sustainable process that allows us to enter into the eternal flow, to experience that infinite grace in which we have always been held in a whole new way, and to find, to access a whole new you from within, and then for us to find collectively a whole new way forward. So I will see you, and we will take a closer look in the coming videos at each of the 7 pillars for sacred partnership and for entering into this process of radiant expansion, ascension, awakening, and a beautiful creation process and recreation in the circle of recreation that is an ever expanding sphere, and it's our home. We are home within these 7 pillars.